So the Gemara in Shabbos Chaf Aleph Amud Beis discusses the sugya of kavsa zakek la, kavsa ein zakek la. If the candles go out, does one have to relight the candles? We all know the Gemara says mitzvasa mishatishka chama ashetikla regel min ashuk. So it's a machlokes rishonim whether mishatishka chama means tchilas shkia, so shkia, does it mean the beginning of shkia or the end? Do you lie at the beginning of sunset or do you lie at Seit? So whichever time it is, so we paskin kavsa ein zakakla. If you light the candles in the appropriate time, whatever the appropriate time means, eino zakakla, you don't have to go back. And that's the way we paskin, because we paskin hanuka osa mitzvahs. As the Shulchan Aruch points out in the Gemara, that we paskin it's Shulchan Aruch Tav Reish Ayin Gimel Siman Beis Sif Beis hanuka osa mitzvah. We pass hanuka osa mitzvah, and therefore, as long as you have enough oil, you lit appropriately at that time. So even if it goes out, ain't kasav la. Okay, so that makes sense. However, the Shulchan Aruch seems to write a chiddush. Va'afilu erev Shabbos. Even on erev Shabbos, you don't have to go back and relight it. Obviously, if you're ready Makabel Shabbos, that's not what we're talking about. We know you can't relight it. But let's say you didn't even light Shabbos candles yet. So the Shulchan Aruch says, Kav Sein Zakakla. The Taz disagrees and says, the Trumas Hadeshin, quotes the Ramah. The Ramah writes, you don't have to, but it's a nice thing to go back and relight it, but you don't have an obligation to. So, and the Taz says, I agree, kavsa ein zakakla during the week, but if it goes out on erev Shabbos before the Zman Shabbos, zakakla, you have to relight it. So, what's the makoches achronim here between the Taz and the Shulchan Aruch and other achronim on whether erev Shabbos you relight it or not? So we pointed out that it depends on the following: that when we know Chazal, when they instituted Chanuka, knew about Shabbos, so they obviously knew you can't light candles. Let's assume you light seitz every night. So Chazal, and even if you light shkia every night, Chazal said you have to light at seitz chochavim every night. That's what most people do. But obviously, Chazal can't tell us to light Hanukkah candles Friday night at seitz because it's already Shabbos. So clearly, everyone agrees Friday you have to light the candles earlier, before seitz certainly and before shkia even. So the question is, what's pshat that Chazal said Friday afternoon you light the candles earlier? Is it pshat that the Zman mitzvah never changed? The mitzvah of Ner Chanukah is Heitzach Chavim. But it's Efshar. What do you want me to do? I can't light then. So we'll give you a hechsher mitzvah, let you light early even with the bracha. But in Achinami, the mitzvah doesn't begin until Tuesday night at the same time it does. Whether it's Friday night or Tuesday night, the mitzvah doesn't begin until the same time. It's a special dispensation on Friday. You can light candles earlier. And the other scholar says no. But in the fact Chazal instituted Hanukkah candles on Shabbos, obviously they knew that you had to light before Shkia. So therefore, when Chazal instituted Ner Hanukkah for Friday night, they had in mind a different Zman. The Zman mitzvah is before Shkia, because that's the only time you can light. My nafkamina, whether I say the Zman mitzvah is the same as all week long, Seitzach Chavim, or the Zman mitzvah is earlier. Either way, the bottom line is the same. I am lighting Hanukkah candles during this time with a bracha. So my nafkamina, I'll tell you the nafkamina is, do we say kavsa ein zakakla? If you light early Friday afternoon before Shkia. If you hold the Zman mitzvah is the same Leil Shabbos as Leil Shlishi, so then you have to relight, because the Zman mitzvah hasn't begun yet, and it's still Efshar. So you could still light candles, so relight the candles, because the mitzvah hasn't really begun yet. It's true you started the Hechsher, but there's nothing left now, so you have to relight. And the Machaber, that's what the Taz is Shita. Or that's what they discuss. So therefore, it's the Shulchan Aruch who holds. That's the Taz who says you have to relight. Because Pashas, the mitzvah is later. But according to the Shulchan Aruch who says, Kavsa ein zakak la'afil erev Shabbos, so that means he holds his man mitzvah starts early on Friday, and therefore that's why Kavsa ein zakak, because you already did the mitzvah. That seems to be the issue on whether Kavsa ein zakak la on erev Shabbos or not. And we explained that was the machlokas we had between the Rambam and the Rashba. We pointed out that the mitzvah was that we said the Rambam Shita is that you can't light until on a normal day. You can't light until Shkia. Because why? Because the way Rav Turchin explained is that according to the Rambam, you can only do the Maisa mitzvah, the Maisa hanuka, b'shas kiyum ha-mitzvah. So the Rambam holds that the mitzvah is at Shkia, so therefore you can't do the bracha, or you got to wait for Shkia to make the bracha. So the Rashba asks, what are you talking about? What about every Friday night? The mitzvah of Oneg Shabbos doesn't begin until 7 o'clock when you get home from shul, but the Ma'aseh Hanuka is happening at 5. So just like it works there, it works here. You don't need the Ma'aseh together with the Kiyum. And secondly, when Shabbos Chanukah, when Chanukah falls out on Shabbos, so then you can light the same way we light candles early on Friday, you can light candles early every night of Chanukah. That's the Rashba's Kasha. So we see from here, we see from Shabbos all year round, and we see from Shabbos Chanukah, you could separate the Maisa and Kiyum HaMitzvah. The Maisa Mitzvah could be earlier, and yet the Kiyum won't happen later. So therefore, what does the Rambam do to answer those shilas? So the Rav Turchin explained is, no, the Rambam holds that the mitzvah Hadlakas Neiros isn't just Oneg Shabbos like the Rashba holds, but it's also Kavod Shabbos. So Kavod Shabbos begins earlier, even on Friday afternoon, and therefore the Rambam holds it's not that you're doing the Maisa Mitzvah early and the Kiyum later. You are getting a Kiyum HaMitzvah right away when you light, because you're fulfilling the mitzvah of Kavod Shabbos. And what does he do about Shabbos Chanukah? How could I light Chanukah candles early? If the mitzvah isn't until later, how can I light candles now? The answer is no. The Rambam is working with the Shita that Kavsa Ein Zakak La'afil Erev Shabbos, that the mitzvah is different on Erev Shabbos. It's not that you're doing a Maisa and a Kiyum mitzvah later. The Maisa and Kiyum are happening also at the same time. So that's the Rambam L'Shitason. You can never separate the Maisa and Kiyum HaMitzvah. The Rashba holds you can't separate the Maisa and Kiyum, and the Rambam holds you can't. So therefore, on Erev Shabbos, so that's the Machlokas Achronim, whether Kavsa Ein Zakuk Be'ikar Adin, we paskin probably you don't have to relight, but the Rama writes it's a Yoter Hiddur that you should relight the candle. As a general rule, the Rama thinks, and others, that for Pisume Nisa reasons, one should always relight. There's no harm in relighting. And then the Darkei Moshe pointed out that, because the Rambam's clear, and the Shulchan Aruch seems to write it that way, that the Rambam writes that if you once you miss tichla regel min hashuk, so that's it. The mitzvah's over. That's the Rambam. So the Darkei Moshe writes that he wants to quote Yesh Omrim. He wants to quote the Shita. He brings down that when do we have the shiur of the Rambam writes Shloshim 30 minutes or a little more. So that's when they used to light outside, and it depended on the Tarmudai, the Tichla Regel Min Hashuk. But Bisman Hazeh that we light inside, perhaps we don't need the shiur anymore. So he quotes a shita that you don't need the full shiur Bisman Hazeh because we're lighting inside, and the Shulchan Aruch brings down it's mashri. You need the shiur. Sarachli teim ba shemen kazeh hashir. The Shulchan Aruch just says, however, if you overdid it, so you're allowed, and then the time's up, you're allowed to blow it out. And then the Mishnah Berurah just goes to Chumrah against that sheet in the Darkei Moshe that we pass the Iva Mizman Hazeh Sarach Shir. That's his shita. But if you do extra, you can take it out, and that's what. But that's based also on the Shiltei Agiborim that perhaps that's the issue. Perhaps Mizman Hazeh that the Persumei Nisa is for the inside of the house, not the outside of the house. Therefore, perhaps we don't need that 30-minute. A 30-minute shiur isn't Halachah Moshe Misinai. It's just a shiur the Rambam said about near Chanuka. It's not like a shiur of Kazayas or Matzah. But since it's not a Mefurish shiur, so therefore, perhaps there's what to discuss, and perhaps Bisman Hazeh, there is no shiur. In fact, what would the Rambam say? Let's say you lit 5 minutes before Tichla Regel Min Hashuk. Would it make sense to put a half an hour of oil in? The mitzvah only has 5 more minutes left.
So no.
Yeah, so Pasha, because he writes, if you go after that, you could blow it out. So Pasha, even the Rambam would agree, even Mizman HaGemara, that there's no point of, in other words, if you only have 5 minutes left before people are going on the street, so even though normally the shiur is 30 minutes or longer, but it would make sense over here for the Rambam to say that you should have more oil, because he's just he even says himself that you could blow out the oil. But the Shulchan Aruch brought down Madlikim u'Mevarchim Bebeis HaKnesses, that there's a strange mitzvah we have on Chanukah. Strange in the sense, not strange like it's weird, but strange it's something we don't find by other mitzvahs, that the mitzvah is to light in the Beis HaKnesses, because it's strange because the Gemara says, Ner Ishu Beiso. The mitzvah of Ner Chanukah is one's home. So therefore, even though the shul, perhaps the Beis HaMedrash, is some people's home in other areas, but in terms of like the halacha of bayis, it's not your home. So therefore, what's the concept of lighting Chanukah candles in the Beis HaKnesses? So there are different schools of thought. So some bring down what's the concept of lighting candles in shul. So some bring down that they say that the mitzvah, the nes of Chanukah happened where? In the Beis HaMikdash. And the Gemara tells us in Megillah, based on a pasuk in Yechezkel, that our Beis Knesses are known as a Mikdash Ma'at. That the Beis HaMikdash is the Mikdash Gadol, but the Mikdash Ma'at, that is the Beis HaKnesses. So therefore, it's kind of like a Zeichel Mikdash. Since the mitzvah happened in the Beis HaMikdash, and the Beis Knesses is a Mikdash Ma'at, so therefore the custom developed the one-light Chanukah candles in shul as well. That's one school of thought. Another school of thought is, no, it's all about pursuing Nisa. That the reason why they instituted in the shul is because there are more people in shul than your home, and therefore they wanted to have the mitzvah affect as many people as possible, so therefore they instituted it in shul. But the main takana was for pursuing Nisa purposes. And number 3, they point out, some Rishonim point out, it has a din like we find the Gemara in Arba Psachim tells us by making Kiddush in shul Friday night. What's that all about? Why are we making Kiddush in shul Friday night? The Gemara talks about those who used to live in the shul. So you lived in the shul, so therefore they used to have Kiddush, Kiddush b'makam suda. So perhaps those who lived in the shul, as well, maybe it's Zabayis, because they had the houses like in the shul over there, so maybe that's why the minhag developed that you light Chanuka candles in shul for those people. Some say for the Eino Baki, for those who can light candles on their own, they're not capable, so at least they'll have some remez, even though they might not fulfill the mitzvah per se, because you need a bias, but at least they'll get Shas Nisim in, they'll get the Shachiyanu, etc. And the Vilna Gaon explained a different reason. He said, also pursuing Nisa, but with a little twist. He said that anytime Chazal instituted a mitzvah of pursuing Nisa b'yechidus, so they always instituted it b'tzibur as well. So, for instance, like Leil Pesach, we say Hallel in the Haggadah. So the night of Pesach, in order to make the pursuing Nisa Barabim, we say Hallel in shul Leil Pesach. And he says it's based on this issue that we want to do Yotzir pursuing Nisa. That's actually a Machokas Machaber Ramah. That's really a minhag svar, but Rav Soloveitchik was very big on it. So therefore, he used to say Hallel. The Briskers used to say Hallel with a bracha, Leil Pesach. So what some places do is they want to give both people a shot. So they wait. They say, okay, we'll daven Ma'ariv. Anyone who wants to stay could say Hallel after davening, after Aleinu, or after Yigdal, whatever davening is. Yes, that's a practice somehow. I think Rav Soloveitchik wouldn't go for it.
That's what we did at the hotel, remember?
Yeah, it was the first...
the time we were at the hotel together.
Yes, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Actually, they're going back to that place.
Oh, yeah?
They're going back to White Oaks this year. Yeah, so... Rav Soloveitchik was against it because he holds the takana over here by Chanuka was dafka b'beis haKnesses, and you have to be dafka between mincha and ma'ariv. You have to have a tzibur to do the pursuing Nisa. The Rav would felt that after you say tiskabel, you no longer have the same tzibur anymore. Therefore, according to the Rav, if you're going to do it, you should have to do it right after Shmona Esrei, before the Kaddish Tiskabel. Or else perhaps the Rav would even say it's a bracha l'batola. Obviously that's not, I'm not saying the minhag exact of the Soloveitchik, but that's strict on not only Chanukah candles, dafka b'beis haKnesses between mincha and ma'ariv, but so too with Hallel. Right, so those different practices. The straight psak of Ashkenaz is not to say it at all. But since many Ashkenaz shuls with Talmidim and the Rav, so therefore many Ashkenaz shuls even say Hallel with the bracha in their synagogues. Those are some of the reasons brought down why, even though the mitzvah is near issue beso, but nevertheless the practice developed that we light Hanukkah candles Beveis HaKnesset. So the Gemara tells us in Shabbos Chaf Aleph Amud Beis, mitzvah mishetishka hachama ad shetichla regel min hashok. The mitzvah of Chanukah candles is from the time of Shkia until there are no more people on the street. So what is Shkia? So that's a Machlokes Rishonim. Whether Shkia means the beginning of Shkia, as the Rambam Shita, or Sof Shkia, like the Mordechai and other Rishonim. But as I point out, that's a chumrah of the Rambam, not a leniency. But the Rambam is saying you need enough oil from Shkia until a half an hour after Seit, as opposed to, that's why the Chanukah candles wouldn't work according to the Rambam, because there are only hour Chanukah candles that go a half an hour, that wouldn't be long enough. So that's a machlokes, the Rambam and other Rishonim, that when you light. So the Rambam writes, Shkia is the time, lo makdim lo ma'achrin. You can't do it before Shkia, you can't do it after Shkia. And we understand according to the Rambam, because if you light before Shkia, as the Chazal tell us, that there's no gain of lighting candles. Sharga denara, something, there's an expression in Chazal that candles during the day, like what do you get a gain out of it? So I understand the Rambam. And in contrast to the Mordechai, a little bit before Seit, why not? The lights will still do a good job. So the Rashba asked on the Rambam, like, what do you mean you can't light before Shkia? Because the way Rav Turtzen explained the Talmud of the Brisker Rav, why does the Rambam say you can't light before Shkia? You have to light at Shkia, because that's when the mitzvah is. So the Rambam Shita is the Maisa and Kiyam HaMitzvah must be during Shkia. The Maisa HaMitzvah must be during the Kiyam HaMitzvah. And therefore, you can't do it before, because you light candles an hour before Shkia, 5 minutes before, 20 minutes before Shkia. You can't make a bracha and a Maisa mitzvah if there's no Kiyam HaMitzvah. That's the way the Rav Turchin explains the Rambam. Comes along the Rashba and asks on the Rambam, like, what are you talking about? What do you mean you can't separate the Maisa mitzvah and the Kiyam HaMitzvah? Every Friday night we do it. We light Shabbos candles before Shkia, and Pashtus, the mitzvah onik Shabbos, it's until later on. So what do you mean you can't separate them? And secondly, if that's not strong enough, Shabbos Chanukah, we light the Chanukah candles before Shkia also. So therefore, the same way, the Rashba says the same way. How does it work? We're lighting the Chanukah candles before Shkia. The mitzvah is not until Seit. So we're clearly separating the Maisa and the Kiyam HaMitzvah. That's the two kashas he asked on the Rambam. So Rav Turchin explains the Rambam as follows. No, the Rambam's consistent with his view. You can't separate the Maisa and Kiyam HaMitzvah. So how does he explain every Friday night? So he says, if you look at the Rambam writes, Hadlakas Neiros is two functions. He talks about it in two separate places. We know there's a mitzvah of V'karasa Shabbos Oneg. There's a mitzvah of Oneg Shabbos and a mitzvah of Kavod Shabbos. And the simple explanation, the famous Gra, Kavod Shabbos is what you do before Shabbos. Oneg Shabbos is what you do on Shabbos. So therefore he says, Hadlakas Neiros has a dual function. Not only does it obviously apply so you can eat the meal during the light, you can get hana, but the Rambam has a strange language in the Rambam. The Rambam says you have to light candles before Shabbos. So what is the Rambam discovering America here? Like, obviously you can't light candles on Shabbos. What does the Rambam tell me? I have to light candles before Shabbos. So the Rav Turch and others are medayik in the Rambam. The Rambam's not telling me a halacha pshuta that I can't. Of course, we know you can't light Shabbos. You can't light candles on Shabbos. But the Rambam is telling me that halakas neiros is a din in Kavod Shabbos. Not only is it a din in Oneg Shabbos, but part of getting the house ready is lighting the candles, so the candles should be lit. Right? So that's what that's the Rambam l'shitason. The Maisa and Kiyam always have to be together, but the Maisa mitzvah is before, and the Maisa mitzvah is happening now, and the Kiyam mitzvah is happening now. The Maisa mitzvah is happening now, and the Kiyam mitzvah is happening now. And therefore, it's the Rambam consistent with his view. The Rashba holds no, that the Hadlakas Neiros is only for Oneg Shabbos, and therefore he goes with his view that the Maisa could happen without the Kiyam. What about Friday night? What does the Rambam do? Rambam clearly says you light candles early. So how do you reconcile that? So that we have to understand another sugya. That the Shulchan Aruch, the Gemara in Chav Aleph discusses the sugya of kavsa zakik la, kavsa eno zakik la. If the candles go out, do you have to relight the candles or not? Do you have a chiyuv to relight them? So we paskin hanuka osa mitzvah. We paskin when you light the candles with the requisite oil, that by the time you light the candles, there has to be enough oil in the menorah to last the appropriate time. If you have that, it's a go. So therefore, if I light oil or candle with the requisite shear and it goes out, kavsa ein zakak la. But if I'm sitting there pouring oil and the candle goes for 2 hours, I'm not yotze because b'shas hadlaka I didn't have enough oil there. So we pass on hadlaka also mitzvah. So therefore, normally kavsa ein zakak la. Therefore, on a normal night, you light it say tzakak and 6 o'clock it goes out, so kavsa ein zakak la. That's clear. And even the Rambam, if you light it shkia, kavsa ein zakak la. But the shaila is, what about Friday night near Chanukah? We're lighting before the Zman. So we're doing near Chanukah, and then we do, of course, according to the Rashba, you can do near Shabbos first. But we go, the way we do is we do near Chanukah first, and near Shabbos after. So the shaila is, what happens if I light the near Chanukah, and then I'm about to light the near Shabbos, or I'm about to be makabel. If I was makabel Shabbos already, so end the discussion. It doesn't tell me anything about the halacha, what I'd have to do. It just means I can't do it. Maybe I'm an honest, whatever. There won't be a reflection on anything. But if the candles go out before I'm makabel Shabbos, should I relight the Chanukah candles? Why would I have a havamina to relighting them? I thought we paskin kavsa eno zakak la. However, perhaps one could argue that Friday night's different, because when do I say kavsa ein zakak la? If I light in the Zman HaMitzvah. So at the time I lit the candles, hanuka osa mitzvah yotze. But perhaps if on Friday, if I light the Chanukah candles at 4:45, and the mitzvah is not to 5:45, so why shouldn't I relight the candles? Maybe I should say kavsa zakak la. So the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch codifies, like the Rambam, that afilu erev Shabbos kavsa eno zakak la. And the Ramah seems to agree. He says, however, tov all the time, not only Friday night, but all week long, one should relight the candle if you could. You don't have to, but that's the psak of the Machaber and the Ramah. However, comes along the Taz, the Trumas Hadeshin discusses it, comes along the Taz and says, what are you talking about? It's true kavsa eno zakak la Tuesday night, but Friday night, of course you have to relight. It's not the mitzvah yet. Right? You hear the kasha. So it's a machlokes, the Taz versus the Shulchan Aruch and others. The machlokes achronim, whether on Friday night kavsa eno zakak la or not. The Shulchan Aruch and the Rambam say you don't have to relight, and the Taz says you do have to, and the Ramah says you should. You don't have to, but it's recommended. So what is the nekudas hamachlokes here between the Taz and the Machaber and the Rambam? Perhaps the issue is as follows. When Chazal set up Neiros Chanukah, they knew about the mitzvah of Shabbos. Shabbos began well before Chanukah. So Chazal knew when they instituted near Chanukah, you weren't able to light on Shabbos. So they knew Friday night, you have to light candles early. So what is Pshat? What were Chazal thinking when they said Friday, you have to light early? Is it Pshat that the Friday night mitzvah is the same time as the Tuesday night mitzvah? 5:45 is Tuesday night, 5:45 is Friday night. The only Chazal gave you a dispensation, you could do the Ma'is Halakha, you could light the candles early, but the mitzvah you don't fulfill until they let you do the Ma'is Mitzvah. It's the beginning of the Hekshur, and then you'll fulfill the Kiyam mitzvah later. Is that the pshat? That the mitzvah is the same zman? Or no? Chazal knew that Friday night you have to light early, so they changed the zman ha-mitzvah. They said it's efshar, and therefore the mitzvah Friday night is 4:45. That seems to be the machlokas here between the Machaber and the Taz. The Taz seems to hold, like the Rashba, that the Maisa mitzvah could be done at 4:45, and the Kiyam mitzvah could be done at 5:45. What's wrong with that? And the Rambam, so that seems to be a kasha on the Rambam. So Rav Turtzen says no, it's no kasha. The Rambam shita is kavsa eno zakek afil erev Shabbos, because the mitzvah changed Friday night. That is the zman ha-mitzvah. So when you light Hanukkah candles Friday night at 4:45, you are getting the Maisa and the Kiyam ha-mitzvah all in one. And therefore it's the Rambam l'shitason consistent with his view. You follow? And in fact, to bring a raya for the Rashba, there's a halacha by Fri Jun haben. By Fri Jun haben, the halacha is you have to give to the Kohen. So let's say there's no Kohen around on the day of the Fri Jun haben, and you're in trouble. But let's assume you know that. You know there's not going to be any Kohanim around. They're going on vacation. So the halacha is the post can bring down on day 7, day 15, day 22. You could do the Fri Jun haben with the Kohen, give him the money, make the bracha, and say, but it's not, the chalos isn't going to happen until, it's not yours, whatever you're going to do. It's basically doing it out tonight. It's not going to be chal until the day of the Fri Jun haben. So that's what the poskim say you could do. That you could, even with the bracha. So clearly, that seems to be a raya for the Rashba shita, that you could separate the Maisa and Kiyam ha-mitzvah. Because everyone holds the Kiyam's not happening until late, so it could be the Rambam is cholik on that halacha. Maybe the Rambam says you can't. Or, if he says it's a go, so that perhaps the Rambam will have to be machalik between the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah and Ner Shabbos versus Fri Jun haben, but he'll have to deal with that. And regarding the issue that comes up all the time, I got the shaila many years ago for the first time, and since then I get it all the time. What was the shaila I got? Probably goes back 10 years ago, maybe more. That the case actually was his wife passed away, and I guess he had yortzai, or either way he might have just been in shul. It was over the summer in the Catskills, and we were making early Shabbos. So, they have two minyanim, he was making early Shabbos. So obviously early Shabbos you make before Plaga Mincha. I mean, I shouldn't say for sure, but that's the way it should. Ideally, that's the way it should be. Some shuls go with a straight 7 o'clock, so they can have a tired day. I'm not saying that they don't have bases. Ideally, everyone agrees that if you can, it's best to avoid Tartei de Sasre, not to have a Mincha Ma'ariv in the same time zone, but Tartei. So either way, so the case was we were davening Mincha before Prague. So he came on and he said, when do I light candles? Like, how could I can't light candles before Prague on Mincha. I'm going to come to shul before Mincha. The time I go home, it's going to be Shabbos already. What do I do? Oh, so it was the first time I heard that. I said, oh, good shaila. First time I heard the shaila. So obviously, it's a simple eitzah. I'm not saying, well, don't daven early. Either the couple of simple solutions, none of idea, because you'll miss tefillah b'tzibur or something else, but the bottom line is that you could always daven mincha at home and then come to shul, but then you miss tefillah b'tzibur, and let's say you have your tzei doesn't want to miss, or you could go daven mincha, go home, light candles, come back later, or daven, it's not like you always have options. You could just give up tefillah b'tzibur, or you give up the yortzai. But let's say so perhaps that's the way to do it. But I'm talking about people who necessarily aren't, let's say, are moderately orthodox. It's not really. The bottom line is they're coming to shul, and they're going to They basically they're basically going to light candles before Praga Mincha. They're not really asking me. Sometimes you have to know when the shiloh is being asked, and they're looking for a limit schus. Is there any way out? So either way, I mean, I don't remember what I told them. I didn't tell them. It wasn't like, I don't know if he was really asking me or just telling me. I don't remember what the. But I've been saying the point was, it got me thinking about the shiloh, and since then I got the shiloh many times. And I was wondering, well, how come I couldn't find it in the earlier sources? Like earlier meaning real. And I realized because it never really came up, because it's a North American thing making early Shabbos. Apparently in Europe, and not until the American influence in Israel, they didn't have early minyanim. So it really never came up. But it's a big shiloh bisman, so many, especially it comes up in a lot of, especially like in Kiruv places where people, let's say, like people are coming for Friday Night Live, Karlbach, and that is their Judaism at this point, and for them they enjoy, for them coming to shul. So for them, like, to tell them, like, not, sorry, I mean it happens, especially if the women enjoy coming, so what are they going to do? So obviously if I tell someone, I say, well, if I think someone's makabel, so I'll tell them, yeah, you have to light candles. You can't light candles first. However, you could come to shul, makabel, different answers of someone. But the bottom line is, what we're really asking is there any way that you could light candles before Plag? That's what basically. It's not. So then one Tosfos talks about it in Shabbos, about if you have a candle going on, you have a candle lit. Do you have to blow out the candle and relight? Or could you use that lit candle for hanukas neira? So it's actually 2 days in Tosfos. The first day, actually, I think it's going with the shita that you don't make a bracha on the Shabbos. So he just says, that's it. Leave the candle going, and that's the end of it. But the second shita says, no, you got to blow it out because you need a ma'isa hanuka. So that's how the Rabbi says. So Pashtus, that's why everyone says you can't light before Praga Mincha, because you need a ma'isa hanuka. It's not enough just to have the light, and therefore you can't light before. So that's the pshuto. So I agree you need a ma'isa hanuka. But who says you need the kiyum ha-mitzvah right away? So Bishlam, according to the Rambam, it can't work, because according to the Rambam, you need the ma'isa and kiyum at the same time, so there's nothing to talk about. You can't light before Praga Mincha because there's no kiyum ha-mitzvah. Even though the Rambam writes that the mitzvah of hanukas neira is also covered Shabbos. Who says I can't do covered Shabbos before Praga Mincha? That's not so pashut either. But I'm saying, what I mean is, according to the Rambam, that you need the ma'isa and kiyum at the same time. But then who says you're not going to get kiyum mitzvah of covered before? So at least you're going to fulfill. So good. So you won't fulfill Onik Shabbos, but according to the Rambam, according to the Rashba, why is it a problem? Do the ma'isa before, and then the kiyum mitzvah will happen later. According to the Rambam, from a ma'isa and kiyum it's a problem. But according to the Rambam, why can't I have a kiyum of hanukas neira of covered Shabbos? So number one, it's 2 days in Tosfos, number one. And then also, it seems to be this machlokas Rambam and Rashba, could you separate the ma'isa and kiyum ha-mitzvah? So maybe we have a sveka working. And why not also, why not light the candle and then come home and make the bracha? Because it's a worse, so you're saying it's not even a shame, it's not even a shame near Shabbos before Plag. In other words, because we find something similar, maybe you'll argue it's not. What is the halacha if a woman, man, whoever's lighting candles, forgets to light Chanuka candles, forgets to light Shabbos candles, and they remember it, it's already Shkia. It's still Ben Hashmashas, it's not like 10 o'clock at night. That's a separate issue. What do you do when you miss if you miss Shabbos candles, you have a kanas the rest of your life? It's a separate shayla. But here it's still Ben Hashmashas. So what is, again, it's a discussion in the poskim. So many poskim say, what do? You get a guy to light. Alright, so where's the ma'isa? There's no ma'isa hanuka. A guy can't do the ma'isa hanuka for you. And yet people say the guy can do it, and you can make a bracha on it. So, because I asked a bunch of people the shaila about any limit chus, and they know, and a couple I spoke to, not that I was satisfied with their answers. They said, no, you can't. I mean, I know you can't, but I'm saying, but they said. So I said, so what about this case then? If you need a ma'is hanuka, so how come the woman makes a? They said, well, that's not so pashut. I said, I know it might not be so pashut, but we make the bracha. I'm not saying lighting before plag's pashut, unless you want to be machalek. Say before plag mincha, you can't even have a shit. It's not even potentially to be Shabbos yet. But at least ben hashmashos, you blew it. But at least it's the zman. Unless you want to come out. But it's not because of maybe it doesn't even have a. I'm just saying you'll have to argue along those ways, or have so then I'll argue. Okay, so to get home, if you make early Shabbos, it's very simple. Go home and get a Judah light candles for you, or if not, get a guy to, and then it's no different than that. So I mean, there are different eights what to do. I just want to point out it has to do with it's totally on this and many other shilas whether you could separate the Ma'isa and Kiyam, which seems to be here the machlokas between the Rambam and the Rashba, on how you learn Pshat. Everyone agrees to the facts of life that you light Chanuka candles early. Is that and so depending how you learn, either that's a proof that you can separate the Ma'isa and Kiyam, or it's a proof you can't, depending on which side. And therefore, it's relevant to the Shaila every Friday night. Could you have a Ma'isa Hanuka without the Kiyam HaMitzvah?